In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read ancient tomes. The order of the Abercast. We are the brave and bold.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Stigmata Studios presents the Jin Jihad. The Jin Jihad kicks your face with myths, mysteries, epic battles, suicide bombers, quirky characters, and divine power armor. In this epic graphic novel, the warrior archangels descend on a city in chaos. It's all-out war. The non-standard assembly battles an ancient terrorist organization and their ultimate weapon, a corrupted, magically enhanced, unstoppable monster, the Jin. This graphic novel is a wild ride. It's one part distant Arab myth, one part Old Testament angelic vengeance, and one part unique heroic tough guys. Available on Amazon. Get more info on the Jin Jihad and other titles at stigmatastudios.com.
We Jews have a secret weapon in our war with the Arabs. We have nowhere else to go. We have to fight. Golda Meir, Israeli Prime Minister, 1963.
The Abercast. Occult. History. Conspiracy. Violence.
All right, welcome to the Abercast. So I want to tell you guys I'm excited. It's a red letter day in Abercast history. We finally got a review on iTunes. It's 5 stars. It's by J.C. Woods, TL. Fantastic, he says, fantastic show that covers a vast array of topics from conspiracy to the occult. John is a great host, and you will definitely enjoy listening. Thank you very much, JC. I appreciate it. So there you go. Leave some more, chumps. Leave some more reviews, chumps. Go on. We want to talk about supporting the show. That is a great way to support the show, by the way. The more rates and reviews I have, I guess the more people can potentially find the show on iTunes, which is part of our ongoing quest here. So go ahead and please do that if you don't feel like dropping down some ducats. But if you do feel like dropping down some ducats, great. The other great way to support the show is pick up a couple comic books or graphic novels. If you like the kind of stories that we talk about here on the show, then chances are you probably like the kind of stories I write about in the comic book. So go ahead and do yourself a favor. Do that. The third great way to support the show is to tell some other weirdo that you know about it. I mean, if you like to hear about wizards bringing stone men to life to punish Nazis or something. I don't know. I'm thinking of like the Golem episode for some reason. Chances are someone else might like that too. I don't know why I went straight to Jews. Maybe it's because of the topic that we're going to be talking about tonight. I got Jews on the brain. Revenge in a Saloon Called Hell is finally got sent up to the publisher, and we're about, I think, 3 days from finalizing. So there you go. I want to tell you guys, if you go ahead and sign into the newsletter, there'll be a link in the show notes to sign into the newsletter. We don't send emails out all the time. We generally leave you guys alone, you folks that are on the newsletter. But if you sign up for the newsletter this week, I will email you a free digital copy of this comic book. And this is before the final corrections, so you might get to make fun of me for some spelling errors if you're quick-witted and hawk-eyed. So go ahead. It's basically it's a love letter to spaghetti westerns. It's called Revenge in a Saloon Called Hell. It's about a guy who feels that we'll just say he's been wronged by a fallen archangel, Uriel, the Lightbringer. Or not the Lightbringer, the fire. Yes, it's the fire of God. He's been wronged from the Archangel Uriel, who kind of fell from grace, and this demon lord named Nizaro. And he figures out a way to get to hell so he could send some jihad upon them. So it sounds good. It is good. It's a fun story. I did a lot of new fun stuff with it. So if you want to get a free digital copy of it, sign in the newsletter, folks. I want to say rest in peace to Tobe Hooper. Tobe Hooper, of course, of Chainsaw Massacre fame. I hope he does rest in peace, and God bless you, Tobe Hooper. But can we all just finally admit to ourselves that he did not direct Poltergeist? I mean, come on. It's blatant. All right, so I want you to mix yourself up a drink. We need to start deep to get into context for this one. Tonight I'm going to tell you the story of the Munich Massacre in 1972 and the subsequent Israeli revenge plot called The Wrath. The Wrath of God. It's coming right up. You can find that at sigmatastudios.com or amazon.com. So this story is a complex and messy business. I got to do something about this microphone. Okay, hold on. All right, this sounds a little bit better. Does that sound better? All right, complex and messy business to start with. Most people clock the beginning of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to just after World War II, when the official state of Israel was established, or reestablished, whatever. Or 1967, which was the Six-Day War, when Israel preemptively attacked Egypt and its other neighboring Arab nations and whipped their ass. Son, their asses, collectively asses. Some trace it back to the aftermath of World War I and the Balfour Declaration. I tend to view it starting with Ishmael and Isaac, way back in the Old Testament. To muddy these old and deadly serious blood feuds, there's been over 100 years of Westerners like Bill Clinton putting his crooked pecker into the Kool-Aid and adding to the confusion and anger. And the disaster of the Carter years. In the centuries, he set the Iranian people back with this whole Ayatollah Khomeini thing. Literally any of these times and events could and possibly will be topics for an Abercast. I mention these things just to illustrate the complexity of the relationship of these two peoples, the Palestinians and the Israelis, that both have roots to basically the same, 5-acre like a piece of land. So let's focus this thing in a bit. And not to worry too much about Ishmael and Isaac, or the Ottoman Empire, or the Iranian Mufti, who worked with Hitler in World War II. We're going to focus in, we're going to get away from that. And let's talk about stuff we can actually get our arms around. After the Six-Day War in 1967, which was a spectacular victory for the straight up and down conventional warfare for the Israelis, these militant Palestinians were focused into sort of stunt warfare. I like to call it stunt warfare. They're the Super Dave Osborne of warfighters. They were looking for mass media attention. Grabbing it's the sort of birth of modern terrorism. And the example we're going to talk about has a familiar setting in a now post 9/11 terradrome, an airplane. Israel was on the cutting edge of counterterrorism and anti-espionage because they're surrounded by their enemy. So the story here takes place, it starts off in May 5th of 1972, the year of our Lord, 1972. A group of militant Palestinians hijacked Sabina Flight 571 and landed at Lod Airport in Israel, which is in Tel Aviv. Their demands, 317 Palestinian prisoners were to be released, or they will kill everyone on the plane. The Israeli policy is do not negotiate with terrorists. And just talk a second about this policy because it probably sounds mean to us today. We're not even going to talk to you. We're not even going to pay attention to the shit that you want. Even though you're holding planes worth of people hostage, we're not even going to entertain you. We're not going to pay attention to anything. Probably sounds a little mean to us nowadays. But the reason that you do this is because if you don't, you're going to find out that all of your people, wherever they are at, all over the world, whatever third world fucking country you're in, you become a target because all they got to do is take you, and they know that you are going to deal, right? I'm actually going to wind up doing probably a series on these locked up abroad cases because these people are so fucking stupid. Like, you watch this thing, I can't remember what the name of it is. There's a documentary on Netflix about this fucking asshole. Of course, lefty, fucking some stupid liberal out there. And he's like, I'm just going to, I'm going to go help the people, and I want to hear their side of this engagement that we have with them or whatever. Of course, he gets fucking kidnapped. He gets fucking converted. He winds up carrying around these guys' guns for them without the fucking slightest trying to get away at all. Any kind of serious endeavor of getting away. He just becomes pussy whipped by these fucking cave-dwelling 8th century savages carrying their fucking guns around with you for them. And finally he gets rescued. They send some fucking Marines in or whatever to fucking get the guy. They fucking rescue him. And they're like, will you come back and, do act as a witness in the trial, to condemn them? And he's like, no, I can't, I'm not going to witness against them, at all because, I totally believe in what they were doing. These fucking pussy whipped motherfuckers. I don't know why I got off on this tangent. Oh, this is about people that get fucking captured or whatever. Yeah, so you don't deal because if you do, you're putting all of your people at risk. So this person, I know nowadays that's not true, especially here in the U.S. Obama is sending pallets of cash to Iran right up until the day he left office. Is not only against the policy, but it's also illegal, by the way. Anyway, back to Tel Aviv. I'm sorry. We're only 14 minutes into this, and I'm already about to have an aneurysm. Anyway, back to Tel Aviv. Israel's leader at the time was this female named Golda Meir. She's like Margaret Thatcher of the fucking Middle East. She was like, so they took this airplane hostage. I'm just going to recap here because I kind of veered way off. They captured this aircraft and then they landed it in Tel Aviv and said, hey, if you don't let our homeboys go, we're going to kill everyone in this plane. And Golda Meir was like, oh yeah? Fuck you, asshole. And she let the Mossad after him. There was a Mossad agent, Ehud Barak, who actually went on to be like the prime minister of Israel, I think, way after this. This is, remember, was back in the, when is it back into? I just said it. All right, yeah, 72. So remember, this is in 72. All right. So Ehud Barak, he had his team dress up like mechanics. And they snuck up on these terrorists. Remember this part. They dressed up like mechanics because they were dealing with an airplane, okay? So they dressed up like mechanics. These guys snuck up on the fucking airplane. And all these terrorists were in the airplane. They had their thumbs up their asses. And this, they call it the unit, is what they call it. It's their counterterrorism group or whatever. We're going to talk about them later. More on them later. But in 90 seconds, they killed 2 of these terrorists and captured the other. Within 90 seconds, these guys busted in the fucking airplane, fucking cap, pop, pop, killed 2 of these fucking savages, took the rest of them captured. They saved everyone on the plane. Storming the airplane and getting into a firefight on the airplane is a tricky proposition, guys. And the reason is because you have such long lines of sight. I mean, if the airplane is actually flying, it's way more difficult. But if it's on the ground, it's difficult because you have the insanely long lines of sight and you have probably a bunch of people between you and who you're actually shooting at. So it is a fucking very difficult thing to do. And these guys busted in there, fucking did it. And they said 90 seconds. Ehud Barak said within 90 seconds they had the situation under control. These Israelis questioned, I'll say quote, questioned unquote, the terrorists, and they learned that they were a shadowy offshoot of the PLO. Now, the PLO is the Palestinian Liberation Organization. It's an organization that was founded in 1964 with the purpose of liberating the liberation of Palestine through armed struggle, with much of its violence aimed at Israeli civilians. This shadowy new group was called Black September, and it was led by a guy. This guy's got my favorite name I've ever fucking said. This guy was led, or the Black September was led by this guy named Ali Hassan Salami. Oh, God, it's fucking hilarious. Okay, so a lot of this stuff that's coming up is from a book called One Day in September by Simon Reeve. So that summer in Italy, a bunch of these Black September or PLO bigwigs all met for coffee in Italy. Remember this, because this is going to come up later. They met for coffee in Italy. And also remember the guy there. His name is Wiles Vider. Wiles Vider in Italy summons these bigwigs, and they talk, and they're talking. And the Palestinians requested for an Olympic delegation had gone unanswered, and these dudes were pissed, and they wound up hatching a plot. And a plot will probably change all. This plot would probably wind up changing all of their lives. So let's take a second and talk a little bit about Germany, the Germany of the 70s. It was post-war, meaning it was still divided west and east. And it was the first time Germany hosted the Olympics since Berlin in 1939. They were eager to put on the joyous games, and they wanted to show that they weren't Nazis anymore. They wanted to show that they were cooperative, and everything was very okay there in Germany. Also, they were in the Stone Age of counterterrorism, as we're going to see in a little bit. Their Stone Age of counterterrorism is on full fucking display. One last bit. After World War II, the German Constitution was written or rewritten or whatever, or just written, detailing and seriously limiting their armed forces working domestically. Now, the reason is they didn't want to see any more film of armed German soldiers goose-stepping down the main Strasse of Wiesenwasserland. We have something similar to this here in the States. That is why we have to arm all of our cops like they're soldiers. You got to arm them to the teeth because we don't let army guys work. You don't want to see army guys patrolling your neighborhood. So now we just see super militarized cops patrolling our neighborhoods. But I digress.
The
All right, 1972, August 26. Olympic Games open in Munich. Munich is a big city. It's the third biggest in Germany. It was founded back in medieval times in the 12th century. Third biggest city in Germany. I think I said that. About 6 million people. 12th biggest in Europe. And having lived in Germany for a number of years, for 2 years, I did an Oktoberfest there in Munich. I mean, we took the train. I tell you what, I don't know how we wound up getting home. I remember sleeping underneath the bench of the train to get home. It was a mess. I believe the statute of limitations has ran out. But I sold a hammer from Oktoberfest in Munich. No, also, so I'm trying to figure out a way to explain Oktoberfest in Munich. It's like, if you've ever been to like Cedar Point or Disneyland or something, it's like that amount of people just jammed in. Like you're on one on top of another. The problem is that everyone's drinking. So everybody's got to piss, like all the time. And I remember we were like, my group of like army guys, were in one of the beer tents. It's just like if you go to like Hofbrauhaus or something like this, and they got these, cute little German chicks, little blonde German chicks with these massive like Popeye like forearms because they're carrying out like these gigantic things of like steins of beer out. They're like 5 in each hand. But I remember like my buddy had to go pee real bad, but we're like we couldn't like maneuver anywhere because it was so packed. So he just took one of these beer steins off this other table right next to us, and he fucking pissed in it and put it back on the table. And we watched these Germans drink the piss out of this thing. Oh my god, it was so funny. I'm not doing the story justice right now because I'm trying to plow through these 12 pages of notes that I got. Yeah, so there you go. Germans drinking pee. Little German chicks with these beers, with these steins. All right, early morning. Let's get back in. Hold on, I gotta get a refresh. I gotta get focused. Focus. All right. It's early morning, September 5th, 1972. Munich, Germany. A group of 8 Palestinians from Black September dressed in tracksuits, carrying gym bags. We're attempting to climb a 6.5 foot fence so they can get into Olympic Village. Now, inside their gym bags, we now know, were pistols, ski masks, AK-47s, that's the Kalashnikov, and a bunch of hand grenades. Just to make you feel better, they actually just brought the hand grenades on their luggage. You know, they just brought all this stuff over in fucking airplanes. And like this, one of the staples of the 70s was people being hijacked in airplanes. A bunch of returning Americans saw them and assumed that they were fellow Olympic athletes trying to sneak in after a night of partying, like they were, and they helped these guys get over the fucking fence. Imagine telling that story. Yeah, I could have stopped all this just by not letting these fucking dicks not helping them climb over the fence. Black September had stolen keys to the apartments where the Israelis were staying, and they gained entrance pretty easy. A wrestling referee, Yosef Gutfriend, heard the men at the door, and he tried to fight them off and to raise an alarm. A wrestling coach, Moshe Weinberg, also fought them off. He knocked a fool out. Bam! And slashed another with a fruit knife before being shot to death. Chaos. Some of the Israeli Olympians were able to escape. A guy named Yosef Romano, who was a weightlifter and a veteran of the 6-Day War, attacked the savages, but was eventually gunned down. And once he was gunned down, they castrated him. So that's what kind of fucking dogs we're dealing with here. When Black September terrorists got control of the situation, they were left with only 9 hostages, which were athletes, coaches, referees, and judges. The 9 people out of the Israeli delegation. And that is when the beating started. Black September's demands were the release of 234 Palestinians and non-Arabs jailed in Israel, and 2 Germans, the founders of the German Red Army faction. Now, the German Red Army faction is basically a bunch of fucking communists. You hear what I'm saying? Commies. They were nationalist commies, too. They were basically Nazis. They might not have had who knows? I don't know. I didn't do a whole lot of research on these guys. I just know they were a bunch of leftists. It's leftists fighting leftists. Leftist on leftist violence. As the world watched, Golda Meir, who was the Prime Minister of Israel, gave her answer. She said, "Fuck off." Basically, she rightly realized that if she gave in to these demands, the well-being of any Israeli anywhere in the world would be in danger. Instead, she offered the Germans the help of her counterterrorism unit and the Mossad, which they denied. Britain volunteered the SAS, which is the Special Air Service, which was probably the second or third best counterterrorism or special services on the planet at the time. You have to remember, Delta Force wasn't, I don't want to say like the SEALs or whatever, but I'm talking about the Delta Force was designed, they trained for, and they were designed to take care of hostage situations, or taking hostages, really, if you want to think about it. I mean, think about that Mogadishu thing, Black Hawk Down. The reason Delta Force was there is because they were fucking kidnapping prisoners. Anyhow, Delta Force wasn't built until 1979. Probably one of the reasons they were built was this fucking debacle. I mean, we're going to get into some of this fucking just tomfoolery, this amateur, Keystone Copish, fucking thumb in the ass, way that Germany handled a lot of this shit. All right, so gold in my ear. God damn it. Gold in my ear offered the help of the unit and Mossad. They denied. Britain volunteered the SAS. They denied. U.S. offered probably some sort of help, not the Delta Force, like I said, but they denied. The Germans were going to do this by themselves. They had a couple different plans that they enacted a couple different ways. Hold on. Their first plan was to dress a bunch of cops up as chefs and try to get into these apartments. And their plan was to fist fight the terrorists. Well, that didn't work. Then they sent 38 cops in with guns trying to gain access to the roof. Their plan was to squeeze through the ventilation shafts. They wound up getting in a firefight with these terrorists, and they didn't realize that they were being televised, and the terrorists were watching them on the TV. So as they were dancing around on the second and third and fourth floors of these apartment buildings, they're like, how come these guys know where we are? Totally unaware of what the fuck's going on. I want to mention at this point that in 2012, someone came out with an article saying that Germany was actually tipped off for this. Some anonymous Palestinian somewhere called some German somewhere and was like, yo, something shitty is going to happen at the Olympics, yo. It's going to be from the Palestinians. And they were like, okay, you bet, dog, whatever. Then there's also a bunch of accusations that some neo-Nazi groups helped the Palestinians get their weapons and stuff in, and they like did some support. That might explain why the Red Army faction was involved with these demands. But you're like, come on, Muslims and Nazis working together. Most people don't think that this happens. It does happen. It happens all the time. It happened in World War II. There was actually Iranian panzer divisions manned by Iranians out there in Tunisia fucking shooting rounds, panzer rounds at Americans. I mean, they were the German officers, but I mean, come on. I'll do a whole show on that too. I just put a list down. I gotta do a list on this. This is why I mentioned the Mufti of Iran and Hitler. Like, in I don't want to say the last Indiana Jones movie because they have that fucking shitty one now. But the Last Crusade one is pretty shitty too. When you watch it, it does not stand up at all. But like when they were like, when they buy the sheik's favor with the Rolls Royce, that's not far from the fucking truth. It was actually like a lot better than that or a lot more less innocuous than that because they're like, hey, what are you doing with these Jews? We're killing them. Bet. Can I help? That was basically the arrangement that Hitler had. Anyhow, going off again. Okay. They also had German officials trying to negotiate. They offered basically an unlimited amount of money, and the terrorists answered, money means nothing. Our lives mean nothing. The Germans were trying real hard. I mean, the world was watching them. The whole point of this exercise was to prove that they weren't Nazis anymore. But they're letting Jews get killed on TV. So as time went on, these incredible douchebags realized that they weren't going to get their prisoners released. Reaching for Plan B, they parlayed some kind of a deal where they would go by underground buses to an airfield, get on 2 helicopters. They were these, the old Hueys, the UH-1s, the Iroquois. They would get on the Iroquois and take those to an awaiting Boeing 727. What they didn't know is all around the plane was stationed a bunch of crackshot snipers. And the flight crew of the jet was replaced with a squad of tough-as-nails ninja karate cops. And just as predictably, the helicopters show up, the terrorists get out, the hostages are chained inside the Hueys. The German karate cops all left their post. And as soon as the terrorists saw the empty plane, shit got real. A firefight with the remaining snipers started. They machine gunned the hostages chained up inside one of the helicopters, and they threw a grenade in the other. When the smoke cleared, all the hostages were dead, and 5 of the Black Septembers were dead. The 3 remaining terrorists were taken into custody, and the world mourned the Munich Massacre. The bodies of the 5 dead terrorists were received as heroes in Libya on September 8th. I mean, they were received as heroes in Libya, period. Full stop. On September 8th, Lufthansa Flight 615 was hijacked, and the Germans released the 3 surviving terrorists from the Munich Massacre. I know, you're like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And you're like, how? And I'm like, I don't know, bro. Maybe there was some kind of shady shit going on there. The first thing these 3 released savages did was to hold a press conference. Back home, however, and by that I mean in Israel, Golda Meir assembles the widows and orphans of the 11 dead Israelis. And she says, anyone who has anything to do with this is going to fucking pay. She told my Golda Meir is, she likes to drop the F-bomb, that's for sure. Anyhow, she says, everyone that had anything to do with this is just like a fucking mafia movie. Anyone who had anything to do with this is gonna fucking pay. She told Parliament, we will smite them wherever they will be. Spoken like the follower of the God from the war God from the Old Testament. We will smite them wherever they will be. All right, so I gotta do a little quick aside here. A lot of the stuff that's coming up past this point is officially unofficial. You know, you can't say stuff like, yeah, we ignored sovereign borders, we sent assassination squads into your country, and we smoked a fool. So if you want to take it with a grain of salt, go ahead, but I'm telling you, this all actually happened. 3 days after the massacre, Israel launched 3 coordinated airstrikes on 10 PLO bases in Syria and Lebanon. Also, hundreds of houses in Lebanon were bombed to rubble. They were suspected of housing Palestinian militants. Hundreds of civilians died. This was a pretty good start in the weeks that followed. Golda Meir and the Israelis rolled out what was soon to be called Operation Wrath of God. Committee X convenes, Mossad supplies dossiers, and a death list was formulated. Now, when I say Committee X convenes, what I mean is there's a group of these highly placed Israeli officials, and they acted kind of like a court, where one of them, they like presented the case. One of them would be like, I think we should do this. And they were like, this is why we shouldn't do it. And they accumulated a death list fast. I want to say the highest number that I heard was like a list of 20 names. Imagine having a nuclear powered nation. They were like, I'm going to kill this one fucking guy. And this is why. It's powerful, man. It's powerful. And the idea of these terrorists that are like, I could go anywhere. Like, I can, we're pretty free to move around in this world in most places, and I can go anywhere, and I can apply my trade of terrorism wherever I go. It's quite another thing to say, well, I'm an anti-terrorist, and I can also go anywhere. I mean, they're about to send ripples through the Arab world, through the Middle East and the Arab world. Wherever there's a jihadi, they're about to feel it. So 6 weeks after the attack, we flash forward to Rome, where this attack was conceived. There's a guy named Pyles Vidir, and his day job, he's a translator for the Libyan embassy, but he's also a Black September agent. This guy, this fucking dude, this evil fucking cunt, he had dinner with a friend. He walked home. He stopped by a grocery store on his way home and bought a bag of groceries. He walked into his apartment, and from the darkness emerged Israeli agents. Fucking bullet holes, son, with small caliber bullets all around his fucking body. Next thing he knows, he's dead on the floor, and his oranges and fucking bananas are rolling all around everywhere. In pools of his fucking blood, because the guy got fucking iced. It's not scheduled, but I feel like I should take a break right now. I feel like I'm getting too wrapped up. Sorry about that. All right. Over 6 months, 3 more Black Septembers taste the wrath. This time by telephone bombs. So they sneak into this guy's house. They plant a bomb. They wire it to the telephone. So when the telephone rings, when he picks it up, the circuit breaks and the bomb goes off. Then there's mines underneath car seats, which is some mafia type stuff. You sit down in your car, you put the key in, you turn the key. Next thing you know, you're like that fuck. Who did that in that one mafia movie? Fucking Robert De Niro got saved or something. I can't remember. Spring of '73, Beirut. There are 3 targets in the same building. There's a strategist, a PLO spokesman, and some other fuckface. And they all had a hand in planning the Munich Massacre. Israel sends in the unit led by Uhad Barak, which we already talked about. These dudes rolled up in a speedboat. Then they got into like one of these inflatable Zodiac rafts and like zoomed in. Half of them were cross-dressed because they thought, well, I mean, it actually worked. They were like, if we don't want to roll through like we're a gang of dudes, that would be like something to look at. So they were just like a group of people on dates. And there's like a guy and a girl. So Ehud Barak dressed up like a brunette, which to me is hilarious. So it's these cross-dressing Israeli secret agents are moving through. They get into, like I said, the speedboat to the anchor, the Zodiac inflatable to the beach. They had Mossad agents that were going to give them a car ride. They also got blueprints of this building. So they got to the building. They set breach charges on 3 doors. Like I said, there were 3 targets in the same building. So there were, basically three families in this apartment building that they were targeting. So they set these breach charges up. 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, boom! Door blows. Commandos just go in. It's Wild West. And within minutes, 3 targets were dead. And in some cases, their whole fucking families were dead. They exited amidst a firefight with the Lebanese cops, who they whipped their ass. From the time they landed until they were back on their speedboat was just about 30 minutes. They left in chaos in its wake. There was at least 3 dead. Well, probably, I want to say at least 4 dead, because I know one of the wives took it too. So we'll say at least 4 dead, 40 more Lebanese and Palestinians shot. And that's what they said. They said if terrorism could go anywhere, then the Mossad can also go anywhere. There was this incident that happened in Lillehammer, which is in Oslo, where they accidentally capped a guy. They were looking for Ali Hassan Salami, and instead they fucking capped a waiter from Morocco. So, and they got arrested. A bunch of them got arrested, and one of them rolled over and talked because he was claustrophobic, and they locked him in a little tiny cell. Then they wound up going to prison, but they only stayed there for a few months because the Israelis wheeled and dealed and got them out. But their whole death squad thing kind of went away for a little while. They were being a little bit too loud. You know, when you get arrested for it and it makes the papers, you're being a little too mysterious. A little too loudly mysterious, I should say. So, in 74, I think it was 74, Yasser Arafat was invited to address the UN General Assembly. There's videos of this, and it makes me sick, because this guy walks in, and they all just applaud him like he's a rock star. And the UN building is in New York, everybody. It's right there. Anyhow, in Arafat's entourage, the Israelis see an all-too familiar face. The man they blame for masterminding Munich, Ali Hassan Salami, who is now known as the Red Prince. Ugh. He was one of those Munich accounts, a CIA analyst says. He was one of those Munich accounts. One of the accounts that were still open. So in 1979, they were able to find him after his appearance at the UN. They found he lived in Beirut. He had 2 kids. No, he had 2 wives with 4 kids. He needed a day job at the militant wing of the PLO, which is called a Fatah. Not a fatwa. That's what I thought too, but it's different. It's Fatah. So this guy got lazy. After he made it to the U.S. and no one fucked with him, and he made it to the UN General Assembly and no one fucked with him, and he came back and no one fucked with him, he was just like, yo, he kept the same schedule, he used the same car, he had the same set of bodyguards, he went to the same place every day, day in and day out. So the Israelis put in one of the taller apartment buildings, they rented a room, and they put a lady up there, and she moved a bunch of cats in, and she set up a easel on her balcony, and she spent all day painting the streets, painting pictures of the streets below her. And after time, she was able to establish this dude's pattern. And eventually, the Mossad packed a Volkswagen Bug with 100 pounds of explosives. They didn't say what kind of explosives it was, but they packed a Volkswagen Bug with 100 pounds of explosives. And as this guy drove his car past this bug, this crazy cat lady with the paintbrush detonated it. Ali Hassan Salami was perforated, son, through his skull with a piece of Volkswagen Bug. That's what I call irony. You want to send a message for the Munich Massacre? I'm killing you because of the Munich Massacre. I'm going to embed part of a Volkswagen Bug in your brain, son. Irony. 2 of the 3 Jamokes that were that were let out of the German prison, got the business end of Israeli justice. And the last guy probably lives in a cave somewhere. Last we heard, he lives in Africa. The book that I mentioned, One Day in September, they did a documentary based around this book, and they actually found the dude, and somebody interviewed him on tape, but he would only be shaded out and stuff. But I'm like, this is the same thing. Like before 9/11, like when the Khobar Towers got bombed and the USS Cole got bombed, they all knew Bin Laden did it, and he was hiding. And we're like, we can't find him. We don't know where he's at. But 60 Minutes fucking found him and interviewed him while he was on the top 10 most wanted list. So that shit's shady, and you gotta fucking take a look at it too, because why can't we just fucking find this guy if everybody else can find him? You know what I'm saying, y'all? That's what I'm saying.
Stigmata Studios presents The Scorpion Strikes. In this comic book, a terrorist called the Scorpion is transported to a secret CIA prison. He quickly turns the tables on the guards and administrators and releases the prisoners. A well-armed anarchist called Constituent Zero assembles a team and fights to take the prison back. This story is a dark political action thriller. The Scorpion's actions set the stage perfectly for the Jin Jihad. Available on Indie Planet. Get more info on The Scorpion Strikes, the Jin Jihad, and other titles at stigmatastudios.com. Stigmata Studios presents The Test of the Scorpion. In this comic book, while the Jin Jihad is raging on one side of the city, the terrorist called the Scorpion sets a secondary attack in motion as he obtains a small tactical nuclear bomb. A mysterious, ever-living warrior called Cyrus the Dead Guy steps forward to test the faith of the Scorpion and his lunatic followers. This is an action-adventure story. It's a bit of swashbuckler that wraps up the Jihad stories. Available on Indie Planet. Get more info on The Scorpion Strikes, the Jin Jihad, The Test of the Scorpion, and other titles at stigmatastudios.com.
All right. Great ways to support the show. You can do it on iTunes. I'll read your review and your rating. You can purchase some books. Like I said, Revenge in a Saloon Called Hell is coming out right quick. You can sign into the newsletter. If you sign into the newsletter this week, like I said, I'll send you a digital copy of Revenge in a Saloon Called Hell. And as far as the newsletter is concerned, I don't send a bunch of shit out. I basically leave you guys alone. I'll let you know when new stuff is hitting there. You go to stigmatastudios.com to find all things going on with the podcast and everything else. There's links to all the social media right there on the website. You just click it and find me wherever you want. I've been doing a lot of stuff on Instagram lately about the new project coming out, so go there. If I got you through an hour or so worth of your day job and you're like, thank God, but I don't know what else to listen to now, well, you can always go to society-13.com, find plenty of great podcasts there. Kettle Whistle Radio, The Lift, The Wicked Library, my other podcast, Red Horse Radio. You can find tons of great stuff there. That's only just like a smidgen of them. You can Prog Watch with the Prog Squatch, the Pop Off with Martise. Queens of NC-17 are coming back from their summer break, I believe, next week. I'm super excited to find out what those crazy bitches have been doing. So yeah, there you go, everybody. Thanks again. I appreciate you spending this time with me and listen to me tell you stories about crazy stuff. We got a little woo-woo lately, so I thought we have to do like a great, just bloody, real world story. So now I'm going to leave you with, if I can find it, I'm going to leave you with Love You Like a Coroner from Soda Jerk 2. Soda Jerk 2. Love You Like a Coroner. Thank you, everybody. I love you. Thanks for listening. Please leave a rating and review. Please. Yeah, that's what I said. I said, please, God damn it.
She spread out just like a cut vein, all over the bathroom sink, all over the bathroom sink. She passed out to a spinning room, knowing death was coming soon, knowing death was coming soon. Just hand me my scalpel and cut out my heart and mold. You used to be beautiful. It's been a while since her body went flat. No one knew just what she's had. No one knew just what she's had. Well, I come home to a pool of blood. Said that she was out of love. Said that she was out of love. Just hand me my tourniquet. Let's see how drunk I can get. I'll never forget you on my cigarette.